Welcome to part 3 of the procedural animation tutorial. In this part, we're going to set up the materials and probably do a little bit of lighting adjustment in this as well. Just so things look a little bit better after a bit of experimentation. Before doing this part, I did find that the lighting was too bright and a few of the lights needed moving around. Okay, so first of all, we will create a material. So we're going to dive into the SOP level of the procedural animation. So just double click on procedural animation. We're going to right click and we are going to then go into, we're going to type in, just go matte net. It's not going to work for me. So material network is what we're looking for. Okay, that's this one right here. Material network. And it just, I just did that, clicked on the wrong one there. So material network, and I'll do that again. We'll drop that there, and now we're going to double click on this one and dive into here. Now the type of shader that we're going to use is what they call a Material X standard surface. So we just type in here, but what we need to type in is MTLX and then start typing standard surface, and you'll see here Material X standard surface. We're going to drop that in there. We're just going to zoom in now. We're going to close down a few of these because we're not going to use them. So if we click on this little arrow on coats, it will just bring it down smaller. On sheen, on subsurface, emission, thin film, geometry. It just tidies it up a little bit, makes it easier. Now in here, if we just click in there and then we highlight this, we're going to change this to procedural anim space. It'll put an underscore, and we're just going to type in capital matte for material. Okay, that's just so, you know, later on, if you've got a lot of materials that you're using, it's going to make it easier to find which material you need. Now, what we also need is another node, and it's called a Material X Geometry Color node. Because what we want to do, we want to use the color that we've been using on the geometry. If we don't have this, it will just come up as a base white color, as in up here. So what we need to do is we'll just drop in a MTLX and start in Geo and Material MTLX Geometry Color. And we pop that in there. Now we want to plug this into a few different places. We're going to plug this into the specular color. We're also going to go transmission color and transmission scatter. So those in there, that will then transfer the color onto these. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're just going to click on just click on this, select it, and up in here we're going to do a couple of adjustments. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop that base color right out. We're not actually going to have a base color at all. We're going to work all on the transmission and the specular to get some nice effects. Okay, the specular, we've got an index of refraction of 1.364. We're just going to drop that down a little bit. Okay, so it just makes things refract and reflect a little bit differently, because round of 1.5 is actually the refraction of water. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go into transmission color. So we just find transmission here. So we can just close that one in just to make it easier. We're going to turn our transmission all the way up. We're going to have a transmission depth of 14.1. Okay, that's the depth that the color will actually go. We're going to then have a dispersion of 32.6. It just makes the scatter color disperse and the two disperse really well. And then we're going to have a roughness of 0.853. Enter. Okay, so that there, we've set up our material. Now we need to get this material onto the object. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go up one. So we're going to click on this guy here, this one here. We're just going to quick click, and it's going to bring up the procedural animation. We need to add a material node. Okay, the material node there, we're going to drop that down on there. We're going to place that, and we're going to put the blue render selected on that one. Now, the only thing we need to do is we need to get from the material network, it needs to be able to read into the material. So up here, where it says material, right here, we're going to click on this one here, and it's going to bring up a little bit of a selection. And as you can see, yours will probably be like that. What we need to do is go into Procedural Anim, because that's the geometry we're working on, and that is where we've placed the material network. We're just going to open that one up, and then we're going to select Procedural Anim Matte, and we hit accept. Okay, and as you can see, that's now gone into. That there is very simply how the materials are applied. You can play around with things and try and get different sorts of things, you know, through render testing, which is something we will cover in the next part of the tutorial. And so this brings us to the end of the material tutorial.